We now move into the last session before the much awaited Cloud Awards, an expert talk on the topic green and sustainable data centers. Understand from an expert how technology is shaping the future of sustainable data centers. Our speaker for this session is Stephen Carlini, Vice President, Innovation and Data Center, Schneider Electric. Stephen is responsible for developing integrated solutions and communicating the value proposition for Schneider Electric's data center segment, including enterprise and cloud data centers. He has been responsible for guiding the direction of many industry changing products and solutions that solve real customer problems or give businesses competitive advantages. Pleasure to have you here with us this evening. Stephen, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Justin, for that kind introduction. I am Stephen Carlini. I'm the Vice President of Innovation at Schneider Electric. And today we're going to talk about the data center journey as regards to sustainability. So very hot topic, very exciting things happening in the data center world right now. We're actually seeing a global data center boom. Today's digital life cycle, combined with new advancements in network capacity, have led to a lot more data being generated, resulting in the need for a lot more data centers. We're seeing the highest build rates, the highest absorption rates, and absorption rate is a real estate term, and it's the amount of data centers that are available for sale or lease, divided by the purchases, and it's almost 100%. As a matter of fact, we're seeing data center contracts being sourced up to 3 years out. So all the capacity that's being built, a lot of it's being reserved. So the old days of building on spec and hoping for tenants or clients is over. We're also seeing the internet giants taking up a lot of the capacity. We're seeing the days of 100 megawatt single tenant data center in some co-locations. But we're starting to see some resistance. And why are we seeing some resistance? Because a lot of these data centers were built so fast, use so much power, and there's questions about the sustainability of these data centers. In Ireland, all of the data centers under construction right now are going to account for 36% of all of the electricity used in the country, which is an enormous number, which resulted in Ireland to have to put a pause on any new data center permits. In the Netherlands, a Meta data center, Facebook data center, that they issued a permit for was actually going to double the size of all data centers in the Netherlands. So there was questions about, how sustainable that data center was going to be and how much power and water it was going to use. So that one was also paused. And we're seeing pauses in the Data Center Alley in the U.S. Data Center Alley in the U.S. is Loudoun County, Virginia, and it's expanding to surrounding areas. And a lot of the beautiful farm country is being disturbed. Neighbors are starting to complain. There's also data center capacity that's been deployed that is sitting idle because that capacity was supposed to be powered by renewable wind and solar that hasn't come online yet. So we're seeing some pauses. One country that has already experienced this is Singapore. Singapore is a central hub, and data center permits and capacity was coming on very, very fast 3 years ago, resulting in Singapore to have to take a look and slow down a lot of the data center construction. So this is an example, and this is kind of going to be the blueprint of the future. So they initiated a requirement called BCA-IMDA Green Mark. So in order to get the permit for a data center in Singapore, you have to show the energy efficiency, how much water you're going to use, what sustainable construction practices you are going to use, what the air quality is going to be, and also, in order to put it over the top, any green features on the data center that you're going to propose. So it's not a rubber stamp anymore. You have to go through this process, and this is going to be the sign of things to come for global data center constructions. So the pathway to get approval for data center capacity is, one, you're going to have to start with highly renewable power. So using fossil fuel, low cost electricity for data centers is no longer going to be acceptable. You're going to have a high percentage of renewable power, or offsets, carbon offsets that you can purchase, or power purchase agreements, things like that, that will go to fund renewable power that will be used in the future. You're also going to have very efficient operations. You're no longer going to be allowed to build a data center that's inefficient and wastes power. Water friendly is really emerging. There's questions about how much water data centers actually use, because very few data centers actually publish how much water they're using. Biodiversity is also starting to creep up. You know, these data centers didn't used to span miles and blocks of real estate. They were relatively small, but now that they are taking up many kilometers of real estate and changing the footprint of the land, and potentially changing the ecosystems in the nearby lakes and streams and rivers, biodiversity is starting to be looked at more. Also coming soon is a low waste. So the idea of building a data center with circular, renewable construction for the core and shell, but also for the IT systems, the power and cooling systems. So what's kind of inhibiting this is the reporting of how circular these solutions are is not well known. So companies like Schneider publishes what we call environmental sheets, PEP sheets, we call them, product environmental profile sheets, that show the embodied carbon of what we're producing, and also the circularity, how recyclable it is. So all companies are going to have to start doing this so that we can understand how to build these data centers in a way that have lower waste. Cloudy reporting. This means that a lot of the reporting that data center operators are using is really ad hoc. It's really bespoke, which means it's unique. There's no standard format. There's no standard metrics. So they report obviously on the ones that make them look the most favorable, and kind of shy away from the ones that don't. So that prompted Schneider to release a format for metrics for data center sustainability reporting. So this is our white paper 67. It was introduced late last year. It provides not only the categories, but also the key metrics for each category. And not only the metrics, but they're also segmented on where the data center operator is in their journey, whether they're just starting, whether they're advanced, whether they're leading. And the buckets that we use are energy, greenhouse gas emissions, water, waste, and land and biodiversity. The software that we use to manage as a single pane of glass and roll up all of the different criteria, we call Resource Advisor. So we could use Resource Advisor to give a quick snapshot and consolidate all of the data from the sustainability aspects of data center operations, not for a single data center, but for a whole fleet of data centers. And this was designed also to be able to meet the criteria when they come out with regulatory agencies, like in the US, SEC and CSRD in Europe. So everything rolls up, gives you a graphical representation. You can see what the areas are that need to be improved or that are doing well. So how is Schneider helping companies on their data center sustainability journey? It's in our DNA. So Schneider not only is voted the most sustainable company in the world, but we have an entire sustainability business. We have 2,200 people in our sustainability business, and they're engaged with a lot of the largest companies in the world to help them set their strategy. We can help companies understand where they are, what kind of data that they're going to need, and how to build a strategy from scratch. And we're working with more than half of the Fortune 500 companies to help them on their sustainability journeys. Of course, we have tremendous experience as the number one supplier of data center physical infrastructure. We have reference designs that are already designed and engineered to supply the most efficient data centers, or the most sustainable, whatever metric, or the most available, whatever metric they're looking for. You can look at the different designs that we have. We could also use digital tools to tweak those designs to make changes. So lots of different options. Driving efficiency in operations, we're using software and digital services to be able to pinpoint where in your operation there's a need for improvement, and also be able to not only make recommendations on what to change, and we're using analytics and a lot of data from data lakes that we've collected, but also we are able to not only recommend, but we're also able to deploy those solutions. So we're not just a consultant, we're also can help fix the problem. Buying renewable energy, I mentioned our sustainability business. One of the core offers of our sustainability business is working on behalf of the customer to purchase power contracts. So we're able to negotiate with the utilities as the grids become more and more distributed all over the world. It's becoming harder and more complex. But one of the core things that we do is negotiate the lowest cost, the highest availability power, and also the most sustainable power for our customers. We're also involved with decarbonizing the supply chain. This is called Scope 3 sustainability. And Scope 3 is 100% dependent on your partners. So we will work with your partners. We just are in the middle of a contract with Walmart, working with all of their suppliers to help decarbonize their supply chain so that Walmart can have a lower carbon footprint on the world. So what's happening with India? India is experiencing tremendous data center growth, as you probably already know. So capacity is actually going to double in the next few years. So it has been growing fast. It's going to really hit a growth spurt now. Catalyst of this is the launch of 5G. When 5G comes out, the capacity of the network is going to transform and become, much higher rate of data transfer. It's the pipe that's feeding the data to the data center. So more data means, you're going to need more data centers to process all of that data. And also what I've been talking about through the entire presentation, the renewables to power these data centers. We can't build these data centers without having a higher percentage of renewable power powering them. We can no longer rely on fossil fuels. So here's an example, Nextra by Airtel in India. They are one of the largest data center operators. They are going to move their capacity to over 400 megawatts. So they're a big percentage of the data center footprint in India. And it's going to be the core. So they're going to be the core of the digital India, they're calling it. So they're going to deploy these data centers not only to process data, but also to be core of 5G. And 5G is highly dependent on edge data center infrastructure. So they are aggressively scaling up, and they are 100% committed to renewable supply. And they're saying they're aiming for 50% of all the power to come through the power of this data center footprint is going to be renewable. So over half is their goal. So what are the key takeaways? Number one, there's a rapid data center build out globally, but it has to be done in a sustainable way. So things are changing. You have to look at the 5 buckets of sustainability. Data center specific metrics. No longer are you going to be able to just, publish what makes you look good. You're going to publish in a standardized way, complete metrics that you'll be able to compare and contrast different data center operators to see how they're performing. And solutions and services. There's a lot more solutions and services that are going to be available to help companies on their sustainability journey, and Schneider is well positioned to do that. So thank you for your attention on this, and back to you, Justin.
Thank you, Stephen, for that insightful and wonderful last session on the topic Green and Sustainable Data Centers, an expert talk. Thank you also to all our speakers for all the engaging and informative sessions we've had today.